So we're now going to move on to agenda item 10, Milton Road and Histon Road, bus, cycling and walking improvements. This is on page 25 of everybody's agenda pack, and it's the second substantive item. We're going to do it as before. We're going to hear from the Chief Executive the recommendations from the Joint Assembly. Debate for the Joint Assembly, they did not recommend it. I think we'll pass over. It's the recommendations. Councillor Ian Manning then wants to speak as a local member, but I think Councillor Damien Turnicliffe is going to speak on his behalf. I think we've only got 10 people present who want to ask questions. You might just say yes if you're here, so I know. Edward Lee, I can see. Matthew Danish. Yes. Eric De Visser. Third. Fourth, Anne Hamill. Fifth, Jamie Dalzell. Sixth, Jerry Rose. Jerry Rose?
Not present.
Not present. Not yet. Seventh, Bob Taylor. Eighth, somebody from the Cambridge Cycling Campaign. Ninth, Richard Taylor.
Yes.
10th, Michael Page.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Having done those, Mr. Tunstall will present it and answer, we hope, all or most of the questions. We'll then have board questions, clarification, and then the board debate. So we will start with Rachel, what the Assembly said to the recommendations. Just to be clear, the recommendations are written out on page 26 of the agenda pack.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the Joint Assembly had a lengthy discussion and did agree to support the recommendations that are in front of you, but did also pass an additional recommendation for your consideration. And the wording for that is that the Board is recommended to supplement development of this scheme with further consideration of means of achieving modal shift to public transport. This was passed with 9 members voting for, none against and 4 abstentions.
So if we refer to page 26, paragraph 8, A to G are recommended to us by officers and by the Assembly unchanged, and there's a new H added, which I think is a sort of separate point, it's not part of the separate point. Supplement to development of this scheme with further consideration means of achieving modal shift to public transport. So now I'm going to take public statements and questions, and it's very difficult without a desk. There is a Councillor Turnicliffe. Is he not here? I don't know what people think about meeting here rather than in a normal committee room, but it's very difficult to keep one's pieces of paper together. So I think we'll just go to questions, everything.
Are you okay with me asking a question from here?
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Okay. £450,000 is spent today proving that Milton Road is not wide enough for HGVs, congestion-free bus routes, protected cycle lanes, footways, bus stops, loading bays, and an avenue of trees. Current project objectives can't be met. The City Access project is aiming to reduce traffic flows by 10 to 15% and maximise modal shift to walking, cycling, bus and train. Surely this must apply to Milton Road too. Reduced congestion benefits businesses that deliver goods and services. No need for bus lanes to prioritise buses, plenty of public space left to make walking and cycling safe and attractive. So will the Board, 1, review and restate objectives for Milton and Histon roads so that they are clear, forward-looking and coherent across all projects. 2, commission analysis of inbound flow control on Milton Road as an alternative to constructing 1.3 kilometres of bus lanes. 3, commission a feasibility study of connecting the Milton Park ride to the busway via the A14 underpass behind the regional college, which would bypass up to a mile of queue traffic and 5 sets of traffic lights.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I must apologise when I dropped my papers on the floor. I didn't realise that Councillor Scott from the LLF was going to talk at that point. Councillor Scott, do you want to come in now, or would you like to finish all the questions and then come in? It's completely up to you. And I apologise for missing you off my agenda slot.
I understand, and I think if we keep going with the questions, that seems to me to be a good plan. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll take you after the questions. I apologise for that. Matthew Danish.
Members of the Executive Board, I have a proposal here, it's found in the supplement, the question supplement, for a compromise solution on behalf of the Milton Road Alliance, combining the best of final concept and due optimum to produce a hybrid outcome. Our confidence has been bolstered by the words of the interim transport director last week. For example, he said that it is at the junctions where you find problematic queues, and that they are only looking to place bus lanes where they are needed. We are worried that bus lanes are squeezing out many important things, even when the claimed benefits to bus journeys are very small, measured in split seconds. We ask the Executive Board, will you take up our proposal to put forward a hybrid design that is based on final concept for the junctions and junction approaches, while incorporating the concepts of due optimum for much of the links in between? Will you instruct officers to take into account the diminishing returns of lengthy bus lanes, and to consult the local liaison forum to find when the costs of lengthy bus lanes exceed the benefits? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Danish. Third question from Mr. Eric de Visser.
Yes, thank you. The present plans of the GCP, whether Cambridge-wide or just for Milton Road, need major alterations or a different mindset before spending taxpayers' revenue on them. You aim to solve contemporary and future problems with somewhat outdated methods. In 2035, your present choice will be seen as antiquated. Your legacy will not be deployed. The question is, how will the GCP successfully manage a modal shift away from cars to trains and buses? It is high time this question is answered satisfactorily before a new target is put on Milton Road and elsewhere around the city.
Thank you, Mr. de Visser. Those we had grouped as slightly general questions. We're now going to move to 2 questions which we have grouped as under the heading of trees and verges. First from Anne Hamill.
Thank you. Councillor Lewis Herbert's letter of 14 September 2016 states that the board supports an avenue of mature trees as a core element along Milton Road, and also the provision of fast roads. But final concept doesn't follow this through. The plan graphic shows a minuscule verge between Herbert Street and Chesterton Crescent, too narrow for tree planting, conflicting with the letter's commitment. The problem is, this is the narrowest part of the road. However, at the 19 July Joint Assembly meeting, in his report on final concept, Chris Tunstall said that the officers will continue to look at this narrowest section of the road and acknowledge that here there is no buffer of verges and trees. He also said that they could reduce some of the lane widths further, as well as the length of bus lanes. So my question is, will the Executive Board commit to instructing the officers to use flexibility in determining the width of the carriageways, pavement and cycleways, and the length of bus lanes to provide sufficient space to achieve healthy verges planted with mature trees on both sides along the whole length?
Thank you, Anne Hamill. And our second question on trees and verges is from Jamie Dalzell.
Thank you, Chair. I think my question was almost identical to the previous question. The only additional comment really being that if the final design concept is incompatible with the board's previous commitment to local residents to support mature trees, will it reject the current design? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dalzell. Can I just check that someone called Brad Wagger is present or not? I think this is a question that came in to South Cambs electronically. We have trying to find out the identity of Radwagon, whether that's a name or just like a Twitter name or something. We've been unable to. Is anyone here who wants to identify that? Okay, well we won't.
Tracking down.
Missed the opportunity. We'll go on to, this is a group of questions, cycling, pedestrians and safety. Jerry Rhodes, please. Now, Jerry Rhodes was not here earlier. Is Jerry Rhodes here now? No. So we'll go on to Barbara Taylor. Your question, please.
The final concept design increases the length of cycle lanes on Milton Road. However, many local residents will be unable to access these lanes as safe crossings with several side streets have not been included. At the Joint Assembly meeting, officers promised to review potential crossings as part of the detailed design. Will there be a commitment to allow all residents in side streets of Milton Road to access both north and southbound cycle lanes by the provision of safe crossings? Will these crossings be included at the earliest possible stage of detailed design development rather than as an afterthought?
Thank you very much. Barbara Taylor, Cambridge Cycling Campaign, Roxanne.
CamCycle are worried about the emission of people walking and cycling from the ceramics model because observations by volunteers have counted over 700 people walking and cycling per hour along Milton Road. Officers have justified the model's viability by claiming that people walking and cycling will be segregated from the carriageway. But problems with the final concept design could challenge this segregation assumption. These problems were outlined in the written version of this question. Blocked cycleways will force people to ride in the carriageway mixed with cars and buses, breaking the model. The results will then be completely invalid. We don't want this to happen. We want the cycleways to succeed. Therefore, we ask the Executive Board, will you instruct the officers to protect the segregation assumption of the model by A, ensuring respectable signal timings for cycling crossings of carriageways, and B, reasonably scaling back the lengths of the bus lanes in order to provide safe bus stops, places for loading bays, and sufficient space for trees to grow. With these changes, the integrity of the cycleways and the footways can be maintained.
Thank you very much, Roxanne, for the Cambridge Cycling Campaign. Our next question from Richard Taylor, please.
Thank you. I just want to urge you to give greater weight to safety considerations. I'm surprised that you don't have a safety audit in front of you when you're making this decision. As you're going to have a safety audit of the Milton Road plans at some point, why not use it to inform your decision making? Could you at least today leave open the possibility to make changes in light of anything which comes out of the safety audit? When the safety audit happens, I imagine you might pick up things like having the cycle lane next to parking, or the fact that you want to keep one of the current accident and injury black spots, the roundabout with Elizabeth Way. So if we could keep things open so that you can change things when you've actually got things in front of you, like a prediction on the number of deaths and injuries. I think if you have that in front of you today, that might actually change the decision that you make. I'd also just like to ask you, the report says that some of the decisions on things like trees and bus stop locations are going to be discussed at workshops. Well, who's going to be able to participate in those workshops? Who's going to be able to observe those workshops? I think we should have some clarity there. And when you make your decisions today, I think it should be clear what it is that you're deciding today and fixing today, and what is still open for discussion in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Can I just check whether Paul Emerson is in the room or not? He wasn't earlier. No, so we'll take our final question from Mr. Michael Page, and then just to warn him, Councillor Tuncliffe, I think you just walked in. You're on next.
Excuse me, my lateness.
You're not on now. You're on next after Mr. Page.
Thank you, Chair. I note that the 2031 predicted maximum inbound queue length at Gilbert Road Junction is 12 cars. Yet a 40-car length overtaking lane for buses is planned. And at the Arby Road Junction, the 2031 predicted maximum queue length is again 12 cars, but an overtaking lane equivalent to 140 cars is planned. I believe that there's real scope in these and other examples for further optimisation without compromising bus journey times or reliability. Any reduction in lane lengths would unlock the potential for accommodating properly sized bus stop boarding areas or allow for better trees and verges and unloading bays, which would help overcome some of the potential conflicts and safety fears which put off cyclists and bus users. So the question is, rather than accept that bus lane lengths quotes will be considered further, as in paragraph 34 of the report, will the members of the board make this a bit more substantive by requiring officers to, let's say, make all bus lanes subject to further technical review with the clear objective of reducing their length wherever that's possible?
Thank you, Mr. Page. We will now do Councillor Tunnicliffe and then Councillor Scott from the LLF. Councillor Tunnicliffe. The NCs.
He's a local resident to this place.
Thank you. My apologies for my late arrival. I'm speaking on behalf of Councillor Ian Manning, who's unable to attend to today, about a question relating to two businesses on Green End Road, which are badly affected by the new cycle superhighway. I'm going to read the statement prepared by Councillor Manning, who's been working on this case for quite a long time. So Councillor Manning says, I cannot support the Milton Road scheme as presented, and neither should the board. The original objections and controversy around the scheme came from the removal of trees. Despite repeated attempts at clarity, we still do not have precise information on what replacement trees we can expect. The consultants have repeatedly failed to model the effect of walking and cycling trips on traffic levels, and therefore are unable to take this into account in their design. The Greater Cambridge Partnership should not be just going with the UK inverted commas industry standard, but should be demanding a higher standard appropriate to Cambridge. The inability to consider Dutch-style roundabouts and lack of imagination around junction design are further reasons to reject this scheme. New York-style trialling should be built into the project from the early stage, but despite repeated support for the concept at the LLF and local meetings, it still doesn't appear. There are enough city deal schemes going forward. This one should not be given the go-ahead at this stage. Please make sure it is noted that I support not banning parking 24 hours in a day outside the hairdresser and fish and chip shop on Green End Road. Although I'm no longer the local member, as the divisions changed in May, I was during the scheme's development, and it was I who originally proposed the entire scheme via S106 feasibility study. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tunnicliffe, and by reference, Councillor Manning. I think that's the end of the questions and that statement. I think we'll now move on to the local liaison forum and Councillor Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to refer to Appendix B, pages 38 to 45, where the resolutions of the local liaison forum appear, and address the officers' responses to those. Our resolution 1 referred to do optimum, and it placed do optimum in the optimal position, and requested that the scheme on Milton Road be developed in the context of do optimum, as that do optimum is consistent with the remit of the board. And we are pleased to note that do optimum has been used as the basis for the development that the officers have carried forward into their now concept. As to resolution 2, we note that a contentious issue for the residents and for the LLF was that the original proposal was that Union Lane be closed, and we are pleased that Union Lane is open and will remain open, and that the officer's response accepts the proposals that were put forward in Resolution 2 vis-a-vis Union Lane. Resolution 3, we are pleased with this too. Elizabeth Way roundabout was originally proposed to be done away with and there to be traffic lights there. Highworth Avenue was originally proposed to be closed. Neither of those is now happening. Highworth Avenue remains open and the Elizabeth Way roundabout remains there. Signalised, however, we note that Dutch style roundabout consultants have been taken into account in relation to that, so we appreciate the response in relation to that resolution. 4, that referred to two-way cycling, and we note that two-way cycling has been incorporated, and there is an issue with trees in the part of the road from the Milton Road Library, that's Asham Road, down through to Gilbert Road, and we will be addressing that in the workshops which are referred to in the officer's recommendations. Resolution 5, we know that the officers support that resolution. Resolution 6, we know the officers support the Copenhagen-style crossings at minor junctions, and we appreciate both those responses. Resolution 7, this relates to the shops at the Arbury Road and Union Lane intersection, and the proposal there we do applaud and appreciate. That is negotiation with the shop owners there for some dual approach and dual funding proposal to ensuring that that intersection and the shops are more people friendly, that there's a good streetscape and public realm improvement there. We also suggest that approach of the officers be taken through to the shops at the Mitchell's Corner end too, which is more difficult to deal with, but if one goes down there, I just really must say, on the right-hand side going down to Mitchell's Corner, the footpath is enormously broad, and it seems to me that there can be something done there, and I think that the officers can incorporate that into their response to our Resolution 7. Resolution 8, the officers support a survey of properties on Milton Road without off-street parking, with a view to making provision there, and so we appreciate their support for our Resolution 8. Resolution 9 relates to bus stops. We do want to emphasise that the workshops gave strong feedback that these should be core design elements rather than being relegated as afterthoughts or simply a design issue, and we expect proper reference to be made to the need that there has to be protection for alighting and boarding passengers, including persons who use wheelchairs for mobility, and there needs to be sufficient width for this purpose. And we therefore applaud the fact and accept the fact that we as the local liaison forum and local residents and stakeholders, whoever they may be, will be engaged in workshops, that one of which will specifically address this issue of bus stops. Resolution 10, we note the officer's support for a signalised junction at the Golden Plain Junction, incorporating some of the do-optimum design and safety ideas, and we therefore appreciate that response to our Resolution 10. Resolutions 11 and 12 were more broadly based. 11 related to city access, and the recommendation of the officers on that is that it be referred to the relevant team that's working on city access, and our Resolution 12 was that park and ride and other associated measures should be fully explored, and that also has been referred, and I know that Councillor Bate has taken into account very solidly the issue of the charges at park and ride. And it would be pleasing if he were to say something about that here, I think, to assure those who are here. Now, may I just really quickly pass to the recommendations that have been made by the officers in this report. A, notice the prioritisation of delivery of Milton Road project. They're going to Western Road. We've got no argument with that. B, this is a note to our resolutions. Now, I have 3 brief proposals for amendments here, and behind Councillor Bates, I have left papers that set this out very clearly, and they're very brief. If members would look at them, I would appreciate that. Now, I emphasise that these slight amendments that I am suggesting have not gone through the local liaison forum because we have not had an opportunity to have a meeting specifically on the report. So I simply put them forward as the chair of the local liaison forum, requesting that the board bear them in mind, as they are very slight, but they simply make clearer, in my opinion, the recommendations put forward by the officers. C should be amended in, I'll go to D and E, should be amended so that the word process is omitted. For example, E says support further engagement with the Milton Road LLF to help inform the detailed design process. It's not the process in which we work, by which we hope to inform the project. It's the detailed design that we want to be engaging in the workshops, and it's our understanding that that was the aim of the workshops, to engage in the detailed design, not the process. And similarly, in relation to D, note that wherever highway space permits, opportunities to adopt further aspects of the do optimum design will be taken as part of the detailed design process. Again, I suggest omitting process, because what really is meant, I believe, here is that wherever highway space permits, opportunities to adopt further aspects of the do optimum design will be taken as part of the detailed design. And therefore, I suggest an amendment to paragraph C by the inclusion of the words bearing in mind paragraph D below, agree the final concept design. So that means D would be borne in mind in relation to this concept going forward. I conclude by saying this, that we do appreciate the opportunity that has been provided to us as LLF, and I would say for all the residents, to engage in workshops consistent with what the board is recommending to approve. The residents and the members of the LLF, I simply have to pay huge tribute to in the work that's been done by the Milton Road Local Liaison Forum and by the residents in this engagement, in this process. It's gone on for some 20 months, and there have been huge achievements in the changes to the original proposals that were put forward, which were certainly not applauded and which are no longer on the table, we say with great pleasure. And that is really due to the work that the residents have done and that the Local Liaison Forum has done. And here I pay tribute to the officers, particularly Chris Tunstall and Paul van der Valk, for the work that they've done. They actually engaged, called in a meeting for 5 hours with the resident representative, Michael Page, and with Matt Danish of the Cycling Campaign. And there have been other meetings that the officers have put a huge amount of time into, and we appreciate that. And also, I should mention that Charles Nisbet was present for a part of that 5-hour long meeting. So I conclude by saying that all this effort has gone in. We are committed to continuing that effort, albeit means that we will be engaged in what has seemed to be an interminable workshop process. I also pay tribute here in particular to Maureen Mace, Anne Hamill and Barbara Taylor. They have done a magnificent job in twittering and tweeting and passing around leaflets and making sure that everybody in this neighbourhood was informed about what was going on. And I end by saying this: if this body, this board, this Greater Cambridge Partnership had not had the contributions that these women have made, you would not be in the glorious position that you are now, which is very different from way back 20 months ago when there were people who were wholly unhappy. I emphasise that everybody is not utterly happy at this stage, but there is room for the development of happiness, and that is in huge part due to the work of the women who have actually been in the background but pushing this along and making sure that the voice of the residents has been heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Thank you for that. Thank you in particular for taking us through your resolutions on those pages 38 to 45, which I thought was very useful to go through them in detail so that we've got your feedback. And thank you for also taking us through your views on our proposed replies, which was very helpful. I was incredibly encouraged by your words. I wrote down you said pleased a lot of times, you said appreciate a lot of times, you kind of even said applaud a lot of times. And I think it's absolutely right that you very kindly pay tribute to a lot of people who've done a lot of hard work. I would certainly echo the work done by the officers, Mr Tunstall and Mr Vanderbilt. You also mentioned residents and local councillors. I think I agree it's been a long process. It may have felt interminable, but it feels like we are getting there. I don't think anyone pretends we're 100% of the way there, but it does feel we're on a journey and that we're getting there. It also feels to me like we're getting to something that, with a bit of compromise, is a satisfactory, or will be a broadly satisfactory outcome. That's certainly the messages I'm getting back. So I think as a board and on behalf of the Assembly, we have to pay tribute to the work of the Local Liaison Forum led by you for the constructive way that we've engaged. Perhaps we call it robust as well, but constructive, and it does feel as if we are moving towards something. I mean, I think everybody wants to make this an amazing road and something that the residents are proud of and the residents enjoy, and the whole of Cambridge and the whole of Cambridgeshire. So I think I'm just going to quickly ask whether any board members want to say something about this particular process and the engagement with the LLF. But on my account, I'd like to pay tribute to you for the way you've led the LLF and the LLF's work as well. I'm going to do this alphabetical order. Professor Amandinger, I don't know if you want to add anything, just particularly about this narrow point.
No, not at all. I fully endorse what you said.
Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I think I echo all the words which have been said. I did attend the last meeting in Chesterton, which was very constructive. There was a lot of detailed questions there. I think there needs to be a great long thanks to the resident associations, councillors, local councillors and officers, and to the chairman in getting us where we were 20 months ago to where we are. So I fully endorse what has been said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bates. Councillor on this narrow point.
Well, I also just reiterate what people have said. I think it is a great tribute to the way people have engaged. It didn't start out as a level playing field in the report that we had in August 2016, and there was a lot of thrashing about and learning about how to construct a workshop process that actually gave residents the opportunity not just to challenge, but with the help of Matthew Danish and others to come up with a counter proposal. And I think we just come back to the fact that we have to honour the objectives of the scheme. Now, Mr Lee might say we've lost our plot or whatever, but I don't think we have. And I just think that within the terms of getting this right, and it matters, I hope that I can express my passion about getting this scheme right as well. That the process and the contributions people have made have been magnificent. So I'd just like to thank everybody.
Thank you. Sounds like Councillor Scott wants to come in here.
If I could just make it at the end, I should have said that in the workshop process, we do trust too that the officers in that process will take into account all the questions that have been raised here by the residents on this occasion, and the cycling campaign, of course. So we trust that that is what will happen. Thank you.
So do I, and I think those questions are going to be answered now. We're going to now hand over to Mr Tunstall to take us through this item. Thank you.
Thank you,
and
Chair.
then just do what's done, we'll do exactly the same questions of clarification, all members, and then the discussion.
if we can get the lights down so you can see this. I will try and whip through this. Anybody that knows me knows that probably I go on a bit too long, but I have been given a time scale shown by you, so I will try and adhere to that. And I can't multitask, so Paul will run with slides. Can I just make a few opening remarks? I'm not going to go through the report. I am going to try and look through the presentation that the Assembly, so people here have seen. But obviously I will answer the questions as I go through. Perhaps the first point, if I can, we are looking to design for 2031, and I know I keep making this point, so the outcome of what we're proposing is for 2031, which is predicting whether people will believe this or not, but with things like Northstone, Waterbeach and so on, traffic increase of 25% and congestion that could increase by 30% in Cambridge and up to 40% in South Cambridgeshire. Now, we can debate that all day, but the upshot is we are building a lot of new houses, and a lot of new houses will mean people wanting to travel, and the trick here is to get them to shift their modes of travel and not to travel in their little tin boxes, albeit not petrol and diesel by 20 years' time, probably. It is the start of the process, actually. We keep talking about this as though this is a done deal. All we're asking for approval here is the concept. And the concept does actually adhere very well to the optimum. It is not the final design. And people might say there's devil in the detail, but the final design is what we will be doing over the next 6 to 8 months. So it is about the detailed design. We'll come on and the point that Councillor Scott has made in terms of process. Yes, sorry. It is the design. Perfectly right to pick this up. It is not the process. I'm looking for the design here, not the process of how we go through it. And yes, definitely in terms of the workshops, the questions that I'll try and answer as I go through will be part of that process. Part of that process. Part of the detailed design work. In terms of, perhaps before I come on to Milton Road, the report also talks about Histon, and I think it is important that, of course, Histon and Milton were one scheme, split for obvious reasons. We have learned a lot from Milton. Hopefully, it will not be as painful for everybody with Histon. We will be coming back with a similar report in November. But if you could just indulge me, Chair, Histon have made a number of resolutions that haven't actually they've got onto the website, but what I would like to ask is, with the Board's indulgence, that as we work through, as we have done with Milton, the process to arrive at a final concept for Histon, that we take on board wherever we can and identify where we can't, just as we've done with Milton for the Histon resolutions. Thank you, Paul. So, back. Thank you. So in terms of just the introduction, it is the final concept. It is not the final design. There is a lot of work to do, but we do believe it responds well, and I do welcome the comments that have been made back. We are trying very much to address the concerns that residents and stakeholders down Milton Road have got. I mean, Councillor Tunnicliffe, on behalf of Councillor Manning, has said they can't support the scheme. Well, it's concept. You're not supporting a detailed design. We're really at the start of the process, as I keep saying. So hopefully, when we've done the considerable amount of work working with the LLF, with the work in the workshops and so on, looking at the replacement trees, looking at the crossings, looking at the bus stops position for the final design, it will come back as a design that hopefully it will be supportable by Councillor Manning. Thank you. Perhaps it could just quickly remind ourselves of the objectives, because obviously Edward has made comment on the objectives, but I think it's useful to identify the objectives have changed as we've gone through the process. I mean, these were the 6 objectives that were originally set, and I mean, as officers we've done this. You can see buses in about 3 of them, so 50% were about bus. And to be fair, whilst walking, cycling, obviously far better in a healthy way, not everybody can do that.
people do need public transport. And the buses, yes, there are debates about how full they are and not, but the buses do move tremendous amounts of people. So we have, I don't intend to go through those were the original objectives that were set. And then following on from that, that was in June, at the same meeting, the board itself put forward further resolutions, further recommendations to abide by, and that was in taking forward the do something option for the further detailed work, including the Union Lane closure, and for the avoidance of doubt, it is not being closed, there are no band turns, it will be as is, and we will accommodate good cycling and pedestrian facilities there. But also, it said quite clearly, Gilbert Road, Arbury Road and King's Hedges junctions should not be touched, and we haven't touched those. We're improving the junctions, and the point that was made earlier, yes, congestion does not start on the links, congestion starts at junctions, that's where you get the problems. We are looking for the traffic management measures to mitigate displaced traffic, and particularly parking. There are properties down Milton Road that don't have off-street facilities, so that will be part of the workshop, so there's work to do on that as well. And work to do on looking at traffic regulation orders to prevent the parking, because to be candid, if you come up from Mitcham's Corner up towards Gilbert Road, those verges can't be seen because there are all the cars parked on them. So we will have to do something about that, because the environment is not improved by that, and we want to improve the environment. So that will be part of the process as well. And the key part is we were asked to do is the important role of the local liaison forum. And hopefully that has been demonstrated in the work we've done with you, certainly in the meetings that I've been to. Following from that, in September, the board again, the venture, Councillor Herbert, wrote out to the LLF to say that we were looking to increase bus reliability, because it's not just about improved journey times, it's about the knowledge that if you go out for a bus at a certain time, you will get on that bus at a certain time, and it will get you where you want to go at that certain time. Not to be thinking this is 8 o'clock in the morning, the probability is that bus is going to be late, and I'm going to be even later when I get to my destination. It is very much as well about reliability. But it is also about high quality cycling, notwithstanding my comments on buses, infrastructure and pedestrian provision, because we want to encourage more of that, and obviously, as we know, Cambridge is one of, if not the, cycling city within the UK. We wanted a high quality public realm. I want to lead, I've said this before, I'll say it again, I appreciate people using Milton Road, unless you're particularly a resident, but even residents higher up Milton Road are impacting on residents further down. So this is being done to the residents of Milton Road and getting very little benefit. My intent is to leave benefit that you get a very good environment there. And I do appreciate the comments that have been made about bus lanes, and I will come on to that. So, of course, the support for an avenue of mature trees is a core design element along Milton Road, and then the preference for a design that involves the need for double bus lanes, one on either side, a 4-lane road, basically. There are a couple of questions that came out of that. One was the question that came from Edward about, well, shouldn't we look to change the objectives? I think we have changed the objectives, but notwithstanding that, people still use buses. Now, what Edward's then gone on to say, very helpfully, is why aren't we looking further up the A10 and looking to address the traffic problems at that particular point. I would like to, and we are looking at this with city access, that's just addressing the effect rather than the cause. The cause is there are too many cars. Why are there too many cars? Because there isn't good alternatives. What I would provide is good alternatives. Not to hold people outside the area and queue them outside, because all you're going to do is create a great big car park. And then, of course, the logic says, well, what happens when people actually want to get out of the city? We're going to hold them in the city till they come out, and the impact that will have. I think we've got to address this in a much wider way. I think tidal flows of this nature Could be gating, could be an option, but you'd have to look at it in the round. You can't just deal with it on one link, you'd need to look at other links. And in fairness, I believe Edward has suggested that on the 428, which just goes to the point. You can't deal with that sort of thing in isolation. In terms of the A10 corridor study, it will look at that, and it will look at the bus lane and the use of the underpass to get, the park and ride and the use of the underpass to get onto the busway. So we will be looking at that, but I still believe we need to progress now with Milton Road. In terms of the trees, this is a big issue. You did say you supported an avenue of trees. There is one area where we have a problem. It is the narrowest point. It is something that I've been in discussion with Anne and Marcus about. We will look to do our utmost, and yes, it's already been mentioned, and these things are reflected back at me, which is right, that we could actually go narrower. We can go narrower on the carriageway. We can go to 5.5 metres, believe it or believe it not. That is still within standard. So we can squeeze bits here and there, and we will be looking to work with the LLF to try and get that avenue of trees on both sides, the whole length. And that goes with James' question as well. So we will still be looking at that. As I say, it's a concept. It is the narrowest point. That's why we've ended up with what we've ended up with. But we've had discussions. We could look at different tree planting stock and things like that. So that is something we are still very much looking at and will be the subject of workshops. Okay, thanks. Can I just add mine? It's the sort of the loving, sorry. I welcome the opportunities. It's not always easy, although in 40 years I've ended up in many as I turn line bends in my career, because traffic is probably one of the most remote issues in transport that you can actually find. And I welcomed the opportunity of working with the LLF and welcome the opportunity of going forward with the workshops. The LLF have been very instrumental and influential in shaping the final concept. Yes, it hasn't gone as far as probably we'd like, but hopefully from what I'm saying now you'll get that feeling that we are still, the final design, there is still plenty of opportunity. And that final design, Chairman, will come back to this board for approval. So this is only approving the concept. The final design will go to the board for approval, and then it will go out for consultation, and the results of that consultation will come back. This is a process. It is not the end in itself. I say again, it's the beginning more than the end. In terms of it does form a strong basis to go forward, I believe, and we have adopted, as has been mentioned by Councillor Scott, about the LLF resolutions. It may be useful just to talk about the road safety needs. Richard has raised this. It is a concept. You haven't got the design. What we don't want to do is go and spend loads of money now working up a final design, everybody throwing their hands up in horror and saying, well, this is nothing like we want. We want just this agreement. This is the general shape of things. We will work up the final design. It will be fully safety audited. That safety audit will be available. That safety audit will come back here. But we know we've still got work to do now. What we do know is the final concept is to current day standards. So we know that. And to good practice. But we have still got room for manoeuvre there. In terms of modelling, this has been quite contentious in the past and using ceramics. Can I first say we have looked at the WSP, have worked with Royal Dutch Haskoning, who are a Dutch firm, as the word implies, or the name implies. They have looked at this. Yes, it's right to say our modelling does not model as it models in Denmark or the Netherlands. But the point here is I am in this country and I've got to use standard modelling that is acceptable in this country. What we can do then is run it past, as we have done with Royal Dutch, and say, are you happy? Does this feel right to you? And their answer is yes, it does. If they were doing it in Holland, it would be a different thing. They would look at different things, but unfortunately, I work to the rules here, the statutory rules, and what is accepted as good practice here, not what's in Holland. However, having said that, we have attempted, and we'll come on to this shortly, in having the Dutch style crossings and so on. So we are looking to move beyond so that, you know, building on when Cambridge, or the County Council was awarded cycling friendly of the year 2016, I believe it was, we actually go further. So that's my commitment. We are looking to go further. So we have tested those designs and the junctions, and it is the junctions where we need to test. And we have been looking at the length of the bus lanes. And these are the optimal lengths at the moment. I'm not saying they will be the finished lengths, but it could go the other way, but I am not saying they are the finished lengths. But what we are looking for is we're looking to try and achieve people getting out of their cars, and that may mean, and we haven't modelled this yet, but the bus lanes try to take this into account, or the bus lane lanes try to take it into account, is hurry signals at the junctions for buses, so that they get priority. That will delay traffic further out onto their queues. I'm not particularly too bothered about that. We want to try and make sure it's no worse than it currently is. Bearing in mind I'm looking for 2031 for cars, but I want to encourage people, wherever possible, to look at other alternatives. So we will look at the bus lanes. That is commitment. We've kept saying this, but we do need to give ourselves that room for manoeuvre. But it is something that will be part of the process. And we're looking at pedestrian and cyclist movement to reflect the interactions. So yes, at the junctions, we are looking at that. No, we're not looking where it's segregated, because it doesn't affect the traffic. Now, you're correct in assuming, well, cyclists will be on their own, not everybody will use the segregated. So we will make sure that we allow a certain percentage of that within the modelling to account for that. But Matthew specifically asked about looking at the length of busways, particularly in terms of cost benefit. My greatest fear here is, with the amount of the public realm that we're putting back in, that actually the cost benefit at the end of the day might be lower than what we'd hoped for. I will not put anything into this scheme, certainly in terms of bus lanes, because they're the ones that are giving the biggest cost benefit, along with cycling, and will not be putting in redundant pieces of bus lane that actually mitigate, increase the cost and don't give me any cost benefit. So again, there'll be that commitment. Barbara had asked about safe crossings with several of the side streets. Crossings have got to be looked at in general. We are committed to the Copenhagen-style crossings on side roads, which is quite unique to this country and will be very unique to drivers. But we are looking to have a workshop that will deal with crossings. So at the moment, the concept shows one or two crossings, but by no means does it show the full extent of crossings that we will be looking at. Roxanne had asked about protecting and the segregation of cycling. The view of that is primarily around the area that is down at Herbert Street with the narrow verges, and yes, as part of what we're looking at, we will be looking at that as well. We're looking at trying to get more out of the verge there and tree planting. So that will be part of the more detailed design work, as will the bus stops, because obviously the floating bus stops, they take space as well. So we will be looking at the bus stop positions. That will also be part of the workshop. So in terms, it's come up now, for those that were at South Cams, of course, didn't get the benefit of this. So this is just a schematic based very similarly on the work that Cam Cycling, the Residents Association have done. So in terms of, I can never do these, I just like doing them all at once. So yes, we are looking at the Copenhagen style crossings. We have got quite a long length of segregated two-way, which was a key issue, particularly on the west side, outbound side, as all the schools are located along that length, and obviously the trees and landscaping. But yes, it does show bus lanes on the approach up to the Elizabeth Way roundabout. I know Paul isn't here, but I think it is worth noting, and I think, I may be wrong, if you can see, there's a little grey blob there. One of the problems we've got a number of residents with access actually onto the roundabout, and obviously we will be working with those residents very closely to sort out their access and egress. They have that access and egress will be maintained. Of course, people will probably recognise if you were building something like this from new these days, you would never ever allow an access to come onto a roundabout, but it's there. So I don't want anybody to go away and say, always say we wouldn't allow it. It's there. We will, and we will work very closely with them. So I think it's just key to mention that, and hopefully also demonstrates all the detailed work which will have to go on. So visualisation, hopefully. Yeah, so that shows just a cross section. So we've done a number of these. That was just one section of road, and we've done that, and then we've done the visualisation. And I know you should never be held hostage to fortune, but we're not doing a before visualisation for obvious reasons. But that is an after visualisation. What it will look like. Yes, there is a bus lane there. And that's going, I think, up in the direction of Elizabeth Way roundabout. Okay. So, just to get some perspective as to bus lane, we're looking at potentially an extra 190 metres out of a total of currently 1,100 metres, looking for an extra 200 metres. Mike has mentioned the point that if we look to optimise some of the bus lanes, we can actually provide more facilities in terms of cycling, better segregation, greater area of verge, better pedestrian movement and facilities. And yes, I reiterate, we will still look at that. This is the concept, it's not what will be the final design. And I have to say, and probably Paul will now kill me because I will be hostage to fortune, I hope to be here telling you that that is actually less when we get to the final design. That's my intent, to actually reduce what I can. I've always got to have sight of that we need to get that benefit cost ratio. We have got the money to actually improve transport. As much as I want to improve the public realm and will improve the public realm, subject to your agreement, that isn't really why we've been given 500 million, but that's the added benefit that I believe residents should get. In terms of cycling, just to give you an idea of cycling, there's an extra 1,700 metres of cycling, most of which is segregated, that short length, but it doesn't matter, it's still a length, down at Herbert Street and Gilbert. That's something we've got to look at. It is segregated in terms of it's raised, but there's very little in between there and the live traffic route. So there is an extra 1,700 metres. Quite significant length of that, certainly on the west side, as I say, is two-way cycling. The rest is single, but wherever possible we've tried to get the cyclists, the verges and the trees between the cyclists and the road. I know that Jerry isn't here, but he was very concerned about the safety of cyclists, and he was asking that question, would we remove some of the space, the road space, to allow for that improved segregation? And that really is again down to Herbert Street. As I think people will gather now, and I'll try not to mention it again, Herbert Street is one of the key areas that we've got to look at, that narrow section, to try and sort out a number of issues there. In terms of the streetscape and the environment, we have, with that one exception, shan't mention its name again, got the avenue of trees. We need to do more work on that. They will be semi-mature trees. We have got examples of that already on the length of Milton Road, and it's that sort of size. So we're looking at somewhere in the 3 to 5 metres, but we will work that through. I mean, people have said about cherry trees and so on. One of the questioners isn't here, but they've actually asked, it's Rab, whatever, was asking about, will we put a material down that will not be lifted by the tree roots? If you can tell me what material will not be lifted by tree roots, I'd be more than happy. Even reinforced concrete gets lifted by tree roots. The key is making sure that we get the right type of trees in there. So that's what we will be doing, working with the city, all the culturists, and obviously working with the LLF. And the key, we've also already said that we want to improve the streetscape outside the local shops. Some of that is private, so we do need to work with the local shops. I think another point just to make, and I've made this before, but we will regularise all the vehicular crossings that are down Milton Road. There are a number of crossings that weren't originally provided for, say no more than that, and we will look to regularise that. So we will be in discussion with all the residents about tidying that up and making sure a comment that was raised before, not here, where there are drainage problems, we pick up on drainage problems as well. So we will look to improve the environment in total, including hopefully a lot of the little niggles that are there at the moment for the residents. So, coming to an end, Chair, I think I've still got just 5 minutes left, so I'm nearly finished. We are looking for sustainable trips. We are looking, yes, you might argue that by 2031, 2035, things will have changed. One of the questions I've been asked numerous times is, so what will the transport of the future look like? Well, what I can tell you is there is nothing new anywhere in the world that people are doing. It's a variation on a theme. It's as simple as that. The only new, really new, is up there, and personal drones. And that is actually being tested out at the moment. So that's the only really new idea. Everything else, in the main, runs on wheels, doesn't run on anything else. So we are looking to future-proof this, but very much so with the technology that we've got now, and in terms of looking to the future, the comparative study that we talked about earlier, then obviously we will be looking to that. But that will need to run somewhere. Unlike the drones, it doesn't run in thin air, it runs on something solid. There is an issue about the journey times, people have said, in terms of looking at the journey times. So outbound, we're looking at 4 minute saving on current, but it is about reliability as well. Inbound, a minute. And people may say, only a minute? Well, when there's a few hundred buses, 300 I'm told, when there are on average maybe even only 30 people, but when they're full, 70 plus, that soon racks up into a total saving. So there are saving times there, but the key thing is the reliability. More importantly, these are savings on the 2031 predictions. These are not now, these are when we get all this additional traffic. So these are actually 2031 savings. Thank you. We are looking to decrease current traffic levels. We are looking to enhance pedestrian cycling. Hopefully you've seen that, and the public transport modes, and getting shifts to these other modes. But, as I say, it is against that increasing population, and it is against, we know, the first thing that most people aspire to is having a car. That's their first mode of transport, particularly if you're young. We have got to do further bus priority measures at junctions. That will impact on bus lane lengths, and that's something we are committed to do. So in terms of the timescale, last slide check. So we're here at the 26th of July. Summer, autumn of this year, we're looking at detailed design phase, winter, spring, then we're coming back to the executive board. What does winter, spring mean? Don't want to time ourselves too much, but probably around March time of next year. So that's the sort of time scale we're leaving ourselves. And then going into the spring and the summer, going out with detailed consultation. And then, of course, the results of that consultation will be coming back. There are a couple of additional questions I haven't touched on. Eric asked about transport and should we not be doing for 2035. I could make it flippant, which I will remark. There are reasons, always reasons, not for doing something, to do nothing. That's the easiest thing in the world, is to find reasons to do nothing on the basis something might change. And the one thing that we do know about cars is that's probably the one technology that's refined and refined and refined itself, unlike things like Pt2 and VHS and CDs. They've come and gone in very short periods of time, but the personal mode of transport, like cars, has stayed, and that is because of our love of them. So not trying to be too flippant about that, but I think we are designing something for the future, that we are looking to future-proof. We are looking to reduce flows in the city centre, and that 10-15%, and that's what we're predicating our designs on as well. So we are looking for that when we come up with the design. Richard had mentioned earlier, and I believe I covered that off about safety design. The full safety audit will come to you as part of the detailed design. For me, Chair, that's 30 minutes on the dot.
That's what we want, reliability.
It's your guidance.
So, thank you, Mr. Tunstall. I thought that was very comprehensive. Deeply impressed by the hard work that you yourself are putting into this and your office team. I've got a lot of confidence, I think a lot of people have a lot of confidence of team working with residents, working with interested groups and coming up with a proposal. And as we all said earlier, we do all feel, I think, we're narrowing down to something eventually next year, and I think a lot of that is a tribute to you yourself, Mr. Tunstall, working pretty hard. And I think I speak on behalf of the board that we're very grateful to the work that you personally are putting into this.
It is a team effort, Chair.
You're leading the team, so thank you for that. So, as before, I need to do questions of clarification first to Mr. Tunstall before we go on to the debate. Possibly alphabetical order, but also because Professor Almendinga lives not a million miles away from that. Do you have any questions of clarification, Mr. Tunstall? Mr. Bates, do you have any? Councillor Bates, of clarification?
No questions.
Councillor Herbert?
I didn't give Mr. Tunstall advance notice of this, so it's not totally fair. But as he's demonstrated in talking for 30 minutes on the subject, hopefully he'll be able to answer it. The recommendation E of the recommendations talks about the work that's still needed on the final design. And in paying tribute to the chair of the LLF and the work of the LLF to date, do you have in mind a list of items that you consider are items that you specifically expect further input from the LLF?
I do. Obviously, we mentioned trees umpteen times. The junction designs still, working with the junction designs, that will impact very much on the bus lengths, so that will be critical in looking at the bus lengths, so that will be part of the process. Looking at the crossings, they are going to be critical as well. That was a question raised to make sure people can easily access to either side of the road, particularly cyclists. In terms of the bus stops, they're another key area that we need to look at and agree, but obviously as well in conjunction with the bus operators to make sure that we get those bus stops located. And of course there's a knock on them with the crossings. So those are the key areas: trees, verges, junctions, bus stops and crossings. But as I say, as we design it up, that is by no means an exhaustive list. We will be working with the LLF on as we work in the detailed design and keeping the LLF fully in the loop as to what the thoughts are that are coming out of this.
And you mentioned bus lane lengths, and you talked also about the public realm and detailed sections of the road. And obviously in conjunction with the mature avenue of trees, how that will be achieved sometimes, including that you'll have to sink the trees into the ground and use innovative methods for actually ensuring that they thrive.
We will. I mean, the benefit of this will be that we will be able to pre-prepare the tree pits and get species that will thrive in that area and make sure that the amount of water that we anticipate will get. So that is the sort of discussion, and that's been worked up very closely with the city's experts in this area.
And I'm going to ask what do you envisage will be the input on specifically Highworth Roundabout, given that there's quite a lot further thought in the fact that the principle of a signalised junction has been put forward, but in terms of particularly the pedestrian and the cycling design on that?
We've already got in the concept something that's far better than our original idea. and we can carry on working that up. There is a lot of space there, but one of the key things, in fact, you've reminded me of a question that was raised by Paul, the resident who actually lives on the roundabout. There is a lot of space there, but the LLF, the residents are quite clear they want to retain as much green there as a roundabout as possible. There was another option that was put forward, that was a T-junction that works actually just as well, and but that wasn't given as much support. So we're still looking, the roundabout is the concept we're working to, but there is still lots of opportunity to refine that. I'm not suggesting for a minute as a T-junction, but refine it more for pedestrians and for cycling. The key of the junctions is that they are signalled. Now I know that is an issue about the Dutch-style roundabout, that they're not signalled, or certainly not normally. There may be odd examples in Holland, but they're not normally signalled. But the key is linking the junctions. That can give us the hurry signal for buses, and as the LLF is already aware, one section of Milton Road hasn't got a bus lane on the basis it's a short section with very few side roads coming in, and we can do away with the bus lane because we can get the buses in front of the traffic. So all of that will be in the rounds, and all of that will be part of the detailed discussions that we're having with we will have with the LLF.
It's been raised both at the Assembly and also here, including by the Cambridge Cycling Campaign, that we're sort of focusing on four-wheeled vehicles. How are we going to, in both the safety work but also in the final design, ensure that we model both pedestrian movements and cycling movements?
Certainly, as part of the ongoing modelling, we have already factored in all the signal facilities with the right timings for cyclists and pedestrians. So they're already factored in, because that obviously does affect traffic and bus flows. So they're factored in, and we will carry on factoring those in. And in terms of actually, if there are cyclists on the road, we will make sure that we allow for a certain element of cyclists to be on the road as well. And if that affects then the general flow of traffic. I mean, the main model that we use, not the Ceramics, that's a more localised model, which is great for what we're doing here. But the main Cambridge model does factor in the fact that cyclists are on the road as well. So we will continue to factor that in. But in the main, obviously, whilst I accept the premise that we are designing for four-wheel vehicles and probably above, in terms of modelling, in terms of the concept that you've got, there was 190 extra metres of lane for those type of vehicles. There was 1,700 for two-wheeled vehicles.
I've just got, this sounds like 4 or 5 questions of clarification. Can you just help me on the models? We've got the Cambridge model, there's something called Ceramics, described as industry standard software. You've consulted with Royal Haskell in DHB, I think that's not the model, that's consultants. Can you just give me a minute on which models and consultants we're using, and reassure me that they're the sort of industry standard and they're the right ones for us to be using?
Okay, so in terms of the models, the 2 models, as you rightly say, that have been used are the CRSM, which is the Cambridge regional model. So that covers the whole of Cambridgeshire. Now, by its very nature, it isn't a detailed model. It covers the key links, and it has just been updated. And that update takes into account all of the development within the local plans. Questions have been raised about Cambridge North Station. It takes into account impacts of Cambridge North Station. And on the basis of further bits of modelling that are done, they're input into the model, and the term is validated. So you actually don't just take the model and assume the model is correct and what it's telling you. You actually go out and see whether that's being reflected actually on the ground. But it is a very general model, is that. So that covers, it can tell you what's going to happen in Cambridge, it can tell you what's going to be happening in Cambridge City maybe. But as you start honing down, that is very coarse, and it doesn't give you the fine detail, as I say, the fine granularity of it. Ceramics is an industry standard model that takes detail out of the big model and puts it into the small model, and that actually models individual junctions along shorter lengths of road. I've been someone mentioned to me, I don't know who, but not to use anecdotal because it just extends things, but an anecdotal on ceramics. We used it many years ago in Durham when I was suggesting that the dual 2-lane carriageway into Durham, which was constantly parked up with traffic for about a kilometre, we'd take one of those lanes out and put a bus lane in. And obviously the debate then was, well, all you're going to do is increase your traffic lane by 2 kilometres. Because actually we were putting a park and ride in, and it was based on what we'd seen in Cambridge, ironically, at the time, which was the early 2000s. And we used the model, and the model demonstrated to members, to the equivalent of the board, what would happen. It didn't demonstrate that at all. It demonstrated the queue length would stay the same for the traffic lane, but the buses would steam past and people would think it's a good idea to go on the bus. And that's actually what happened, but that's the very fine modelling of ceramics. Royal Dutch Haskinen and another consultant, one of the things we keep getting issues raised about is the consultants are very fixated on bus. They're not. It is the mode of transport in the main for mass transit of people. But there was a very valid point about cycling, and do our models like ceramics model a Dutch style roundabout? And the answer is they don't. They don't very well. You've got to sort of cheat and tweak it and do things with it to make it try and simulate a Dutch style roundabout. It doesn't do it as a matter of course. And we actually asked them to review that modelling. And whilst they didn't say, great, best thing since sliced bread, perfect, it's spot on, they did say that they couldn't find an issue with the modelling that had been done. They did say they got a different model in the Netherlands, but it goes back to the point, you've got to make the case, you have to use industry standard, because the counter-argument will be is, well, we don't live in Holland, so why are you using their modelling? We live here, shouldn't use a model here. But we've tried to cover that off by using Royal Dutch.
Thank you. In South Cambridgeshire, anyone who's mobile rings pays £5 fine to Chairman's Charity. Chairman's Charity this year is going to be Red Balloon, which I think is an amazing charity. So if anybody wants, from my left, wants to donate £5 to Red Balloon, because I had a mobile ring, would be the first person. My second question, where does Mitchell's Corner fit into all of this? We're going to have, we hope, a fantastic approach down to Mitchell's Corner. Where does Mitchell's Corner then fit in?
When this is going a bit beyond my time and maybe yours, Chair, when the scheme came forward, the Milton Road and Histon Road scheme came forward, Mitchell's Corner was part of that proposal, but at the board going back into last year, it was decided to take Mitchell's Corner out of the proposal and, pardon the pun, park it. It wasn't saying we weren't going to do it, but it was not part of the scheme. Certainly we've had discussions, it has been raised at the LLF, we would like to bring that back onto the table. And we were aware that the Combined Authority were interested in looking at a potential scheme there, so we are discussing about bringing that back onto the table, because it does make sense to incorporate that. It doesn't actually alter significantly what we're proposing, but it will greatly add to it.
I think we could just have that in the minutes, because if we can get the whole way down, as it were, to the river, that would seem to complete the exercise. I'm just going to ask you two questions, really, just to draw them out more than anything else. I mean, I'm very interested in cycleways. As you know, outside the city, I've been a great champion of the Greenways project. I haven't seen before this digit of 1,728 metres of extra cycleway. Chief Executive and I have just done that on my telephone. That's over a mile of extra cycleway that you're creating, and I think that is worth just mentioning. And then I've had an exchange with Paul Vanderbilt on trees, which I think I copied to you. He tells me there are currently 139 trees up Milton Road, of which 11 are categorised dead or dying. So that leaves 128 existing trees. I looked in the final concept and I counted every single green dot, and I take the point that I think these are not specific proposals for an exact tree would go in an exact place, but you know, we're sort of getting there, and I counted 189 green dots on the final concept plan, which 168 are on Milton Road and the rest are just on the side streets. So it seems to be we're going from 128 live trees to something in the region of 168 trees on Milton Road or 189 on the entire final concept. I'm not asking you to guarantee in any way that number, but the concept that there will be more trees at the end and the beginning seems to be being established. Maybe not. Talk about that.
At the Assembly, I was asked what officers' success would look like in terms of this scheme, and I did make a comment to one of the residents' chairs, and I shan't say that here, but certainly, which was hopefully a very positive comment, my own personal outcome of this. Certainly another personal outcome would be that we end up with more trees than what we've got now. As a general outcome, I want a much better environment, and that is certainly one way to measure it. Those trees that you've identified, Chair, I've learned to my cost, be careful about quoting definitive numbers, because I'm sure someone might go and count them all for us. But the numbers that we have identified on the plans do take account of everybody's drive. What they don't take account of is what is under there in terms of services and so on. So that will be then part of the detailed design as we get a better idea. But again, that is not saying just because there are services there, we aren't planning to strip. That's not the case. It's just that sometimes if there are boxes there might be a slight problem. You might have to move it slightly.
Thank you. Just a final question of clarification, which is sort of what happens next. 2 points here. On page 34, paragraph 56, it talks about procurement. It talks about, towards the end of 2017, the process of appointing a contractor to develop the detailed layout plan and the full engineering design will begin. Is that the sort of tendered contract under, as we previously talked about earlier today, local authority rules? What sort of contractor would that be?
Okay, Chair, so we are talking about a construction contractor, so the contractor that would do the works. Before anybody starts to panic, bearing in mind what I've said about the process going forward, what we tend to do is get contractors signed up early. The reason for that is they get then involved in the design as well, and they tell us easier ways of building things. It's called early contractor involvement. So it isn't that they're going to be coming in at the end of this year and then the beginning of next year there's going to be spades in the ground. That's not the case at all. What it is a case of is they will be part of the process in working up the final scheme and telling us what's the art of the possible. We might be saying we do this in a certain way, and they say it'll be a lot easier and a lot cheaper, and you get exactly the same thing if you do it this way. So the actual start of the scheme will not be till well into 2018, subject to all your approvals. So we're certainly moving to the back end of 2018 before people would see a shovel in the ground.
But you'll choose a contractor under normal local authority procurement.
We are indeed.
And then my final one, you talked about, when you would come back to the board, you talked about winter/spring next year, and you said you didn't know what that exactly. Well, I'd just like to encourage you, I mean, you must do it at the right time and the right pace. We're going to have next year what we have this year, which is a purge period for local elections, because there are South County elections. That means there will probably be a meeting in March, but then not another one, as a wild guess, until June. And therefore, if you can come back for March, there was a comment about it being an interminable process. If you can come back for March rather than June, I think we'll appreciate that, just to note it.
That's what we're currently looking for, Chair.
So I think, I'm sorry about my questions for clarification. Does anybody else have any other questions for clarification? No. Should we move on to the debate then? Thank you. Does anyone want to have any comments on it?
Thank you. Well, I think listening to the debate and questions and the points that are being made and reading the background documents, my impression is that this is moving very much in the right direction. It's a funding exercise and seems to be moving down that funding from a general concept to a more detailed scheme. I was very heartened by what was said by the LLF, and I think the engagement there has been a very positive part of this process. I just wanted to pick up on your proposal on the LLF side of things about taking out the word process, because for me,
I'm not sure the difference that makes, and it seems that you want actually to be part of the detailed design and the detailed design process, because it is a process as well as a design. I was just wondering about taking out the process bits, the effect that had, but it's more of a semantic, because I actually think it covers both, but I just wanted you also to be clear that you wanted to be part of the design process as well as the design.
We're part of the process in the reality that we're going to be in the workshops, you see, and the workshops are the process. Whereas I did understand Chris Tunstall to be agreeing that process was not correct in D or E, because in D, it's wherever highway space permits, opportunities to adopt further aspects of due optimum design will be taken as part of the detailed design, because the process, as I say, is the workshops, and then E, support further engagement with Milton Road LLE to help inform the detailed design, because we're going to be part of the process, which is the engagement, isn't it? And so in that engagement and process, we're going to be helping to inform the detailed design.
I think we'll discuss the exact wording, the exact position in a moment. So if we just keep on discussing the concept of all of this.
The only other point I just wanted to make very quickly is I would very much welcome the re-inclusion of Mitchell's Corner. To me, it doesn't make any sense to simply stop at the other side of Gilbert Road. I believe the City Council actually has some detailed proposals for the improvement of Mitchell's Corner that are emerging through consultation at the moment. So I would very much support that and urge the officers in Greater Cambridge Party to have a look at the Mitchell Corner proposal and try to include them as part of this process as well.
I would agree with that, and I think the best way there to do that is by way of minuting that press Armendingham as your comment and minuting it as my comment. I think I'm tempted to suggest we leave the recommendations as is, but if we minute that as comments, and Councillor Bates and Councillor Herbert might want to come into that in a moment. But before we move on, press Armendingham, is that you finished that right? Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Many people perhaps are not aware, but I have got out of my car. I have been regularly using the B-bus, and so I'm very familiar with the issues down this road. It's also fair to say I have driven down it, I've walked down it, I've looked at all the junctions on it. The only thing I've not done is to cycle it. I'm afraid my cycle stays at home in my garage. So the only thing I've not done this road is actually cycle it. So I think that's quite an important point to make at this moment in time. I'll try to pick up on one or two things which have been mentioned. It appears to me that we've got considerable workshops to participate in. I've written down in no particular order or priority, and some of them may come together, which are trees, bus lanes, bus stops, lighting, crossing, traffic signals. Some of those may be obviously combined. I think that's a very sensible list to date, and there may be other things that will be added. But essentially, those are the sort of workshops which, in conjunction with local residents and the LFF, will obviously come forward in the fullness of time. A couple of other things that I noticed that perhaps are worthy of mention in respect to Water Beach. There is currently a planning application which has been submitted to South Cambs District Council for 6,005 homes. That's obviously outlined, but that is currently in and being discussed. Obviously, they are building houses at Northstowe. I've seen them, I've been there as well. And also, I think it's worthy of note that the A10 has been mentioned on the A10. There is currently studies on the A10 up to Ely and studies up to Kings Lynn, because it's not only the impact on what happens in this county, but what happens in other counties as well. So there is studies which are taking place. From memory, and I'm sure Chris will correct me, we are in receipt of one of those studies, but not both of them. That's not my info. You'll be glad to know. So I think we have got one of the reports on the A10, but there needs to be the two. We need to be receipt of both of them to see how they interlink This essentially is the section between towards Liverpool and beyond up to King's Lynn. And King's Lynn, of course, have got also quite a considerable amount of development happening, which will all add pressure to the corridor coming in. In respect of Mitchell's Corner, my understanding was that there was going to be a master plan which was being developed at the time. I'm not quite clear at the moment as I sit here precisely how far that's gone or whether it has finished in respect to consultation, but I think that would be an important part for us to consider what that master plan says, particularly, again, sitting on the bus, you can well see the problems of Mitchell's Corner. I think I've had a bit of a challenge from the chairman of the LFF to make a statement about the park and ride charges. I am on record and I'm currently working to remove £1 charge on all park and ride sites in the county. The other thing I wanted to mention, I think, particularly was in respect to the report, which really is on page 30, 32 and 34, which I think purely highlights the issue about bus lanes. And it's quite involved on 34 that there will be further detailed discussions and views taken forward. I think that is the essential point. I did attend the Safety Assembly, I did attend the LFF, and I think that it very much was one of the top priorities I would describe it. There needs to be discussion on that. I haven't got the answer as I sit here, I think, any more than the officers have or the residents, but it does need to be taken into account. The reason I mentioned Water Beach and King's Lynn and Ely, there's a lot of development happening in Ely as well. They're currently building there. The school is actually open, and that actually is about 3,500 homes. I have actually visited there. They're also building a new secondary school because of all the development in Liverpool as well, along with the primary school. All I say there is that indicates what I call the growth on that particular corridor coming into Cambridge. Not everybody will come into Cambridge, obviously, but I think that's the points I wish to make at this moment. I'll come back to the recommendations, I think, at a later point, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bates. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you. So, I think we've come a long way. There's still work to be done. So, the threads that we need to discuss with the LLF, Mr. Tunstall, just sort of the particular issues that we want. Particular issues that we want the LLF to focus on. I would personally want to highlight these the major junctions and the need to look at some of Mr. Taylor's concerns about safety, but also just the overall design of those junctions, the balance between cycling, walking, and four wheels and above. Also the issue of people who are impaired in terms of disability. And clearly also there's a lot of other smaller junctions along the route where they're talking about Copenhagen style approaches. So I think there's quite a bit of work to be done on there without wanting to take away from anything of the list that both the LLF raised, Councillor Scott and also Mr. Tunstall. I would certainly take the view, and I'm obviously doing a little bit of preempting later, that when we do look at the cost-benefit ratio, we shouldn't be worried about some of the extras that have been put into the scheme. Obviously, it will be, we will obviously have to look at what the ratio comes out at, but if we're responding to the community, and obviously there is rightly a community that really cares about their area, and this route going through it, then it's right that we cough up with the necessary requirements to make this a successful scheme. I do want to go into the recommendations, including, I think, the good recommendation that the Assembly's added about modal shift. And this is a point that Eric de Visser raised earlier as well. So I think it does fall on the Greater Cambridge Partnership, particularly now that we plan from the autumn to work in a more consensual way with the Assembly, to really look hard at what is a fair and deliverable, equitable, but effective way of capping the number of cars that come into the city, which would include the number coming down this road. And it isn't going to be an easy easy choice, as I personally have found in being involved in one of the earlier options. So I think we've got to come back to that issue, but it doesn't take away from the fact that I don't expect that to be a penal approach, and therefore we're not about trying to stop people moving around by the range of car options, particularly away from the congested peaks. So I would hold the line that we need to have schemes like this. Councillor Tunnicliffe and Councillor Manning are not of my party, but in a way, and I don't mean to be dismissive, but in a way the comments that my inference, and I stand to be corrected after Councillor Tunnicliffe, is that effectively what you're saying in the way that it was worded is, will the world go away, and will the Greater Cambridge Partnership just go away? And I just don't think that's an acceptable response to the needs of this scheme. The growth of the housing, the new station, the discussion that Councillor Bates stated means that we are in this period of change, and we just have to respond with a scheme. I think quite a lot of what is in this scheme, and Councillor Scott listed a number of the changes, actually responds to what is needed both by the community and a significantly busy transport route. And I think it strikes a good balance, subject to the further work that needs to be done. I take the point that some of the issues, including Mitcham's Corner, were not included in the brief, and that both the City and the Greater Cambridge Partnership need to look afresh at that. My suggestion on that would be that once the work of the local liaison forum is done on this project, that we actually list a number of related issues that we get the local liaison forum to have an initial discussion about, in conjunction with the urban design and other staff out of the City Council and the local action plan that is being proposed for that area. So I'd just like to support the Assembly's additional recommendation, which effectively becomes recommendation H, because I do think, as Mr. Davis has said, and also Edward Lee, in challenging with some other ideas and other work that his group had put together, those issues do need to be addressed, but I don't think that takes away from this scheme.
So before we move on to the resolution itself, does any other board member have a point on the debate? I have added my views, which I think echo everything that's been said before. I think this is very encouraging. It's been a long process, but we are now filtering down to something that will be a good result in the end. If we move to the recommendation set out by officers on page 26, A to G were considered by the Assembly, who supported them all without any changes. We've talked about H, which came from the Assembly. It was proposed by Councillor Tim Bick. It was passed as a recommendation to us by 9 members voting for, 0 against and 4 abstentions. I'll just read it again. The board has recommended to supplement development of the scheme with further consideration of means of achieving membership of public transport. As regards the other wording changes on this sheet of paper, my personal bias would be not to take them, I'm afraid. My personal bias is to try and agree with the Assembly and work together with them. We've done some amazing good works over the last 6 months. I gather these were raised at the Assembly. The Assembly, I think, didn't vote on them but didn't take them. My inclination and my recommendation by fellow board members is therefore we take 8, A to G and add H. And that's what I'd like to propose. I'm going to, unless there's any comments, I'll call for a vote, but I would also ask Professor Ammendinger as well. But Councillor Bates.
No. I'm content.
And would you vote in favour of that then?
I would vote in favour.
Councillor Herbert.
Agree.
Okay.
I'm, again, not a voting member, but I would be supportive of this.
Great. So we're going to now say that we have voted and we will accept officers' recommendations A to G and the additional one, H.
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you. I now propose we have a sort of 2-minute comfort break. I need to go to the loo. Some members of the public may have come here for the Milton Road item and not want to stay, but we'll just adjourn for
Very welcome to stay.
We're very welcome to stay, but if people want to shuffle their sheets around, chairs around, they can. We'll adjourn for 2 minutes. I would also announce that the combined authority has voted unanimously in favour of doing the survey that we were talking about an hour ago, study that we were doing an hour ago, so that will go ahead. So we'll reconvene in about 2 or 3 minutes.